Have you ever sat in the bathroom for what felt like forever? That heavy pressure in your lower stomach getting worse by the minute. But no matter how hard you tried, nothing would come out. Then comes the dull pain spreading into your lower back. Your stomach feels tight and swollen. Your whole body becomes restless and uncomfortable. And slowly, a frightening thought starts creeping into your mind. Something is seriously wrong. If that sounds familiar, then today's video may be one of the most important things you hear after the age of 60. Because what many people assume is just normal constipation can sometimes be something far more dangerous. A hard mass of stool becoming trapped in the rectum, so severe that the body can no longer push it out on its own. And the most concerning part is this. Most older adults don't realize what's happening until the body starts sending emergency warning signs. Over the years of working with older patients, I've noticed something deeply concerning. So many people suffer silently with digestive problems simply because they feel embarrassed to talk about them. They assume it's just a minor issue. They try to wait it out for a few more days. They drink extra coffee. They sit longer in the bathroom, straining and hoping something will finally happen. Or worse, they take anti-diarrhea medicine when the body starts leaking watery stool. But this is often the moment when things can become dangerous. And what's fascinating is this. The body usually sends warning signs very early. The problem is, most people don't understand what those signals are really trying to say. You may still be having bowel movements every day, but it never feels completely finished. Your stomach may constantly feel heavy and uncomfortable. You might have a dull ache in your lower back that you blame on aging. Or maybe you've started having trouble urinating without understanding why. And this is where things become important. What many people don't realize is that the rectum and bladder sit very close to each other inside the body. When stool becomes severely backed up and hardened inside the rectum, it can begin pressing against the bladder from behind. The result? You may feel the urge to urinate constantly, but only a small amount comes out. Or you find yourself straining harder and harder just to empty your bladder at all. And it doesn't stop there. As that mass of stool becomes drier and harder, the pressure inside the pelvis continues to build, and the pain can begin spreading into the lower back, the hips, and even the thighs. Many people think they have a spinal problem, when the real cause is actually hiding in the intestines. And this is something very few people ever talk about. After the age of 60, the digestive system begins changing in quiet but very powerful ways. The muscles of the intestines become weaker. Bowel movements slow down. The sensation of thirst decreases. So many older adults unknowingly drink far less water than their bodies truly need. And on top of that, many common medications taken later in life, including blood pressure medicine, painkillers, iron supplements, antidepressants, and calcium, can slow the intestines down even more. In other words, this is not happening because you're weak or not active enough. It's the result of multiple biological changes happening at the same time. Changes that many people were simply never properly taught about. And the dangerous part is this. This condition rarely happens overnight. Most of the time, it develops slowly and silently over several days. At first, it's just a mild feeling of bloating. A few days later, it becomes harder to have a bowel movement. Then comes that constant feeling of never fully emptying. And eventually, the body reaches a point where everything feels almost completely stuck. Imagine your intestines like a long plumbing pipe. When waste stays soft, everything moves through fairly easily. But when stool sits in the colon for too long, the body keeps pulling water out of it. Day after day, that stool becomes drier, harder, almost like clay left out in the sun. And here's the shocking part. The harder you strain, the worse the situation can actually become. Because instead of pushing the stool out, the pressure from straining can compress it even tighter inside the rectum. That's why so many people end up sitting in the bathroom for hours, completely exhausted, dizzy, sometimes even with rising blood pressure, and still unable to solve the problem. In clinical practice, I've seen patients end up in the hospital simply because they believed, if I just keep trying a little longer, it'll finally come out. But the body doesn't work that way. And now, I want to talk about one warning sign that confuses people more than almost anything else. Diarrhea. It sounds completely backward, doesn't it? But many people with severe fecal impaction actually begin leaking watery stool. They assume they have a stomach bug, food poisoning, or a simple digestive upset. So what do? They take anti-diarrhea medication, and that can make the blockage even worse. This is one of the most dangerous mistakes people make. What's leaking out is not normal stool. It's simply liquid stool squeezing around a hard mass that's trapped inside the rectum. And if you take medication that slows the intestines down even more, you're making the entire digestive system move even slower. The trapped stool continues drying out, hardening, and the situation can quickly become much more serious. That's why I always tell my patients this. If you have a constant feeling of pressure or fullness in the rectum, while watery stool is leaking out at the same time, don't automatically assume it's ordinary diarrhea. Sometimes, the body is crying for help in ways that are very difficult to recognize. And this is the part I need you to listen to very carefully. A stool blockage that stays trapped for too long doesn't just cause discomfort, it can become a true medical emergency. As the intestines remain stretched under constant pressure, blood flow to the intestinal wall begins to decrease. The muscles of the bowel grow weaker and slowly lose their ability to push things forward. Meanwhile, the pressure keeps building day after day. Then the symptoms can suddenly become much more severe. Nausea, extreme bloating, vomiting, fever, a stomach that feels hard as a board. And in the most serious cases, the wall of the intestine can actually tear. When that happens, bacteria and waste begin leaking into the abdominal cavity. This creates an extremely dangerous condition called peritonitis. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm saying it because you deserve to understand how serious this problem can become. The body usually gives us warning signs early, before things spiral out of control. So if you're dealing with symptoms like this, what should you do? The first thing, stop straining. I know that sounds completely opposite to instinct, but forcing and pushing harder usually only causes more swelling and irritation in the rectum and anus. Instead, the first goal is to soften and lubricate the trapped stool. One simple method many doctors often try, first is an adult glycerin suppository, but here's something many people don't realize. In cases of significant stool impaction, using just one suppository is often not enough. Many doctors may use 2 or even 3 to create enough lubrication and local stimulation. And the way you do it matters too. You should lie on your left side. This position helps place the rectum and lower colon in a more natural angle for stool to move. If possible, use a water-based lubricant. Then gently insert the suppository deep enough inside. And now, here's the most important part. Don't get up right away. Stay lying down for at least 30 to 45 minutes, so the suppository has enough time to fully dissolve and soften the surface of the stool. So many people fail simply because they give up after 5 minutes. If the first attempt doesn't work, get up and walk around the house for a few minutes. Drink some warm water, relax, and then you can try again about an hour later. Warm water can be especially helpful because it naturally helps the intestinal muscles relax. But if you've tried multiple times with no improvement, or you develop severe pain, fever, a hard swollen abdomen, vomiting, or you can't pass gas at all, don't keep waiting at home. Seek medical care immediately. And I know some people listening right now may feel anxious hearing about manual stool removal, but let me reassure you about something. When done properly, it is a very common and generally safe medical procedure. In more severe cases, doctors may use gloves and lubricant to gently break apart the hardened stool and remove it piece by piece. And if necessary, patients can be given pain relief or mild sedation to make the process more comfortable. What surprises many people is this. Once that pressure is finally relieved, they often feel better almost immediately. But here's the most important part of all. Fixing the problem once is not enough. If the underlying causes aren't addressed, the blockage can come back very easily. And the next time, it often happens faster than before. That's why, after the age of 50, taking care of your digestive system is no longer a small issue. It directly affects your energy, your sleep, your memory, your immune system, and your overall quality of life. And the very first thing you need to prioritize is water. Not tea, not coffee, not soda, plain water. The colon depends on water to function properly. If the body becomes dehydrated, stool gets drier and harder as it moves through the intestines. And the problem is, many older adults no longer feel thirst as clearly as they once did. You may think you're completely fine, while your body is quietly becoming dehydrated in the background. One simple habit I often recommend to my patients is drinking a full glass of water right after waking up. This helps activate something called the gastrocolic reflex, a natural response that encourages the intestines to start moving in the morning. And here's the interesting part. Many people notice significantly easier bowel movements within just a few weeks from this one small habit alone. Next comes movement. You don't need intense exercise. Even a gentle 2-0 minute walk after meals can strongly stimulate bowel activity because the intestines are not just passive tubes. They're muscles, and muscles need movement to function properly. Sitting for long periods of time, especially after eating, is one of the most overlooked causes of constipation in older adults. And just as importantly, review your medications with your doctor. This is an incredibly important conversation, yet many people never have it. A large number of common medications can slow the digestive tract as a side effect, and sometimes, simply adjusting the dosage or switching to a better option can dramatically improve constipation. And please, be careful with stimulant laxatives. Yes, they can help in the short term, but if they're used every single day for too long, the intestines can gradually become dependent on them to contract. Over time, the bowel muscles may become lazy without medication stimulation. That's why so many people eventually feel like they can't have a bowel movement without laxatives. And here's something else that sounds very small, but can make a surprisingly big difference. Your sitting position on the toilet. The human body was never truly designed to eliminate waste at a strict 90-degree angle like modern toilets force us to do. When the knees are slightly higher than the hips, the muscles around the rectum relax more naturally, and the pathway for stool becomes straighter and easier to pass. Sometimes, a small footstool under the feet can create an incredible improvement. And before we end this video, I want to speak directly to those caring for elderly parents or aging loved ones. If you notice they haven't had a bowel movement for several days, their stomach looks swollen, they complain of back pain, discomfort, loss of appetite, or they suddenly become unusually confused, don't overlook the digestive system. In frail older adults, complications can progress much faster than most people realize. Sometimes, just one delayed response is enough to lead to hospitalization. And please, never feel embarrassed talking about this issue. This is an extremely common medical problem, and in many cases, silence is far more dangerous than an uncomfortable conversation. If you learned something new from today's video, I hope the biggest lesson is this. The body almost always sends warning signs before a real crisis happens, and when you understand those signals, you can protect yourself much earlier. Getting older does not mean you have to accept constant pain or live with chronic constipation forever. Many people over 60 still maintain healthy digestion, sleep better, feel lighter and more comfortable, and have far more energy, simply because of a few small but correct habits practiced consistently every day. If you're still watching right now, comment the number 1 below so I know you stayed with me until the end. And if you've ever gone through something like this, share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want more health information designed specifically for adults over 50 explained in a simple, practical, and honest way. And tonight, before you go to sleep, drink one more glass of water